Welcome to RecCast, a video podcast series about all things AI in recruitment, brought to you by RecRite.
Welcome everyone to another episode of RecCast, our podcast series where we explore the use of AI in recruitment, looking at both the opportunities and ethical considerations and pitfalls of using AI in HR in general and recruitment in special. In this episode of the podcast, we'll be exploring the intersection of AI and recruitment with our HR specialists, Tiina Hahtovirta and talent strategy leader Rahul Pardasani. We'll delve into their vast experience in managing global people, HR teams, scaling up successful growth startups in the Nordics, and other topics. The whole podcast aims to provide valuable insights for HR leaders, business executives, and AI enthusiasts on the future of the recruitment in the age of AI. And today I'll introduce our first ever live guests, Tiina and Rahul, briefly. So Tiina is an experienced HR professional with 15 years of experience in various HR roles. She specializes in creating, designing, executing, and managing global people and HR teams. Tiina is known for her expertise in creating and managing people and HR teams and functions. She's skilled in coaching, mentoring, and other team members across executive team and leadership teams. Tiina has a strong track record of driving change management, developing unique company cultures. She's passionate about creating and developing the best workplace for all employees. I'll let her speak a bit more about herself in a bit. And in addition to Tiina, we have her former colleague Rahul Pardasani, who is a talent acquisition lead at Carbon Culture today. Rahul specializes in leading talent strategy and has an extensive experience in scaling up multiple successful growth startups in the Nordics. He brings a passion for fostering creative and curious and collaborative work environment and believes that great people decisions are critical for society, socially conscious organizations to sustain their unique commitment to profit and purpose. That's enough of introductions. I think it's time for to go into the discussion. So Mika, kick things off.
Yeah, so welcome both. And first we would like to hear a bit on your own words that how have you ended up in HR and recruitment? So like a short live CV kind of, or whatever you want to say about it. And Tiina can start too.
Okay, so yes, Tiina Hahtovirta. How did I end up in HR recruitment? Honest truth is throughout the home party, of course. Recruited by a former colleague to a startup life. But yeah, before that I did some studying in Turku, School of Economics, and from there I got an interest of people. In a way I was thinking, should I go to the psychology of people or leading of the people, and I chose this more business path, so that's kind of my education background to HR and recruitment. And the first workplace, so it was a startup where we were scaling up heavily and recruiting many people, so 10 people on a monthly base came into that company, and that's of course then deep dive directly to the recruitment field. So that's how I ended up there. And since that, so as you said in the intro, so I have done startups and scale-ups, usually international companies, and a big, I think, component that combines all of my career history in different companies is a change. There always has been a change. Need to grow, need to scale down, need to do something different, change the business or something like that. But that's where I belong, to doing some development project or changes. And as you said, building up the international HR teams, and that all starts with the recruitment as well. So I truly believe the same words as Rahul. So good people decisions, they make the company shine, or bad decisions fail.
And what do you do today?
So today I do something different. I'm actually an interim CEO for an IT company called All I Need IT. But it also has a particle of recruitment. So I'm doing 6 recruitments during the first half of the year. And yeah, so still involved. Even the position is different, I still do recruitment. And that has been as well in all my career steps. So recruitment has been part of my role somehow at least.
But in consulting, your main kind of a product you're selling is the people and their talent. So
Exactly. And I don't know actually what is the business without the people. So there's not too many of those.
Thank you. Rahul, how about you?
I could probably talk a bit about what I'm doing now and then tie it up with how I ended up when I'm doing what. I'm currently leading talent strategy for Carbon Culture, It's a climate tech startup, Nordic American startup. They're based over here in Helsinki. We have a few sites in California. We basically build technologies that helps remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Looking at technological solution on climate mitigation side of things. Very niche industry, quite new, I would say, quite parallel to the energy and infrastructure industry out there. So basically, I'm hiring for a lot of niche roles. Quite a few roles haven't existed before in traditional industries or companies in general. And some roles have existed in the traditional industrial engineering side of things.
So it's mainly engineers that you're hiring.
I would say 50% industrial engineers, and then 50% on the business, biochar science, and a few other kind of, I would say, project development side of things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing since December 2022. Prior to that, I've worked with IQM, which is one of the quantum computing startups over here in Finland. They were really early stages when I joined the team. I was the first in-house recruiter, pretty much setting up the talent strategy and foundations. They were going through a hyper-growth stage. They had attracted a lot of investments. They were a spin-off from Aalto University. And building quantum computers, you'd require a lot of specialists who are like double PhDs in quantum physics and with the specific background in superconducting qubits and with an understanding of Python and programming languages and computational sciences and things. So I would say 70% of my hires there were more on the scientific side of things and 30% more on like business strategy, product growth, a lot of different other aspects of things in general. Again, quantum computing is a completely new ecosystem over here in Finland or in the Europe in general, so attracting a lot of clever globally to bring them over here, moving into Finland. I added about 120, 30-ish people at that time when the peak grew through. Prior to that, I worked with Tiina at Musician. It was amazing place, basically a very passion, mission-driven organization where people were really curious about creating music education solutions. And so it's one of the traditional SaaS software as a company out there. The whole point of that, basically we had like 100 million monthly active users when I was working along with them. So
One of them.
yeah, and it's a brilliant product. I've really enjoyed it in general. So in terms of like probably more parallel to gaming or education and like traditional SaaS roles hiring around over there.
Developers and business people.
Developers, business people, product strategy, everything as a whole gamut in general. And marketing as well was a very specific function. They have performance marketing, which is probably one of the top functions that I've seen here locally in the industry side of things. I've done a bit of consulting here and there. I don't put it much on my profile, but I've consulted on some projects with some larger gaming names in the Nordic industry and a few other music tech startups and a few other things as well in general. And how did I end up in here? I had a background in social work and media projects in India. I moved to Finland. I wanted to study social work professionally, but I was actually deeply passionate about just tech and ecosystem and being like early millennial that had access to like a lot of technology. I used to tinker around a lot. I used to follow a lot of podcasts and people that have been doing amazing stuff out there in the industry. So, and also speaking English. Because of that, I was able to kind of, the Aalto startup ecosystem kind of welcomed me in there. I made a lot of introductions and connections with startup founders over here. So I was working for an organization that was helping highly skilled immigrants find jobs in the startup ecosystem. And from there, I kind of learned a lot about the Nordic startup ecosystem and pretty much landed at a few interesting places through. So I've been quite privileged in that sense of attracting really amazing people around me and finding great mentors. Like a lot of people are just like super helpful. They just kind of reach out. Like if I have any HR related thing, that's not my high core competence, but if I need something, I just reach out to Tiina. And here, I think that's one thing I like about the Nordic startup ecosystem, that people just reach out, help each other. And I think a lot of open knowledge sharing and other things existing. So, yeah.
Really interesting background. May I ask one question about because if you think about, especially there's kind of two most recent roles you mentioned, quantum computing and then this carbon neutral, carbon dioxide thing. must be quite hand-picked recruitments you do. So it's not a mass recruitment. You're kind of pinpointing experts around the world and try to attract them to Finland.
Agreed.
So very much manual work to get there.
There's a lot of manual work in outreach and sourcing. I don't think the traditional philosophy of post and pray works there, that like you post a job description and then wait for people to kind of apply or scream everywhere with, hey, we are hiring, please come and apply for it. So it's identifying the right talents, calibrating them, reaching out to them, building relationships. I think IQM seemed quite challenging at first. I felt like, how would I hire these kind of complex roles through? But somehow there's a handful of people in the world that are actually working on similar technologies with not much competition. So it's a lot of relationship building, identifying the right people, and just saying, hi, we exist and let's talk. I think maybe we find some synergy to work together or figure out ways to kind of, if there's something that we can do to do amazing stuff together. So
just to continue a bit on that, I let Mika ask a question. How do you attract them to Finland? What are the selling points? We might know the negatives, but what are the positive selling points?
I think Finland has done amazing with this Finnish toolbox. I like that one particular website. I think at the end of the day, especially when I'm attracting talent for those kind of roles, the competition for them is like Google or IBM or a few other options out there in the US. But again, they're like small day functions. There's a lot that needs to be done through in the industry, a lot of research that is coming through. So Finland has a fairly decent quality of life, and the overall kind of package that that's not just like the base pay and how it is. I think people want good quality of freedom, good quality of society, good quality of like they want to live in safe spaces, they want to be able to contribute meaningfully to the society, and in general, I think there's a lot of good things that I can pitch through. So depending on case-to-case basis, when I speak with individuals, I try and identify what they value the most. And once I know what they value the most, then the Finnish toolkit helps me out a lot into kind of pitching Finland in the appropriate manner around over there. That, hey,
That is kind of a different story than the attracting international talent stories we read from the newspapers all the time. But it's kind of a way more positive that you say. But that probably is a topic for another podcast episode. So let's not go deeper there. But super interesting. If I'm coming back to Tiina, what kind of use cases of AI in recruitment have you used or kind of seen during your recruiter work?
And so when the AI started coming, I think Rahul was in my team actually. So we were talking about a lot like where and how and what can we do. And the first things I think I used it for was job ads. We were trying to create the job ads then and see the quality and kind of input and saving time immediately, like what happened there. And then I think second came the screening of candidates, I would say. So at least there it started coming, but very slowly and surely I think it's coming to every kind of different angles. And I have been a part of the recruitment process where there's a lot of use of AI. Very different ways depending on the company as well. And I see really possibilities to expand it to different roles and different ways and different companies. And slowly I think there's not a company that can avoid it and say it that way around. Because it just saves you so much time and it keeps you better results in the end of the day.
And when was this when you started to?
2021?
2021, something like that.
Yeah.
So a few years ago.
A few years ago. Yeah.
And pretty much it seems to be that most of the use cases are pretty similar still than they used to be.
Yeah.
But technology has taken a huge leap since or during the last 2 years.
I think when we hired Tiina, I was the only in-house recruiter Musician had, and she mentioned job description. So concretely, to give an example, I think there was an AI tool that helped make the job descriptions a bit more. The language was like any biases, gender approach or some other aspect of things. So it would help me clean up and make sure that like the job description, any identifying any words or something, it's able to kind of. So that was one concrete thing. When it comes to outreach of candidates, basically, it's not as good as modern AI, but some of the tools that we were using for like mass outreach, personalization of messages, personalization of kind of, and then a lot of metrics and things that are kind of defined around, okay, like how's the response rate? Can I do A/B testing of messages or not? So a lot of that was simpler things that we were doing.
Yeah, you were starting and actually notes for the interviews as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember what was that path forward we're
We
using.
used Greenhouse that time.
Yeah.
We had like proper structures and processes for having good scorecards in each interview phases, and then in order to avoid bias, what we made sure is the settings were able to allow us that like people are not able to see each other's feedback unless they actually put their actual input and feedback around there to avoid any biases. And yeah.
Actually, this is a feature we just recently built into our own tools.
Very cool.
Just because of the reason. So
Yeah.
the feature to hide away some of the stuff, because you don't want to have the bias of, hey, this guy gave that link.
Yeah, or the CEO said that, like, we all have to agree.
Exactly. But you still have the Finns giving 3 or 4 to everything, so that's the kind of want to have a variety, and that's a bit of a difficult part. Sorry.
And how is it nowadays in your current role, the AI?
I'm using quite a lot. I think I really enjoyed getting to see code buzz around AI, and I try to break down my role into different functions. So I would say in terms of recruitment, there's the phase before even a role is launched, which is where getting the hiring team to understand what exactly the role that we're hiring for. Especially like right now, we are a 30 people team. Let's say there are 5 people involved in one hiring process. Something comes from the CEO's mind, something comes from the business development team's mind, something comes from the engineering team's mind. They're all looking at the same role, but from so many different perspectives. So I think sometimes what I do is try and collect input from all of them, put it through Gemini, which is my preferred choice tool of just generative thing. Try and understand, is there a synergy somewhere? What are common points and common perspectives? What are some things that are missing? And then when I do a proper kickoff meeting, I've done good homework that I'm able to ask right questions. And I think a lot of AI tools have been able to help me think in a bit more structured manner. So most important thing is when we are hiring one role, everybody understands that this is the role we are hiring. If everybody doesn't understand, you're wasting everyone's time, you're wasting the candidate's time, you're wasting hiring team's time. 3 people would be like yes, 2 people would be like no, and then like there's just like a ego battle and other things. So I think bringing in alignment is the first important thing, where AI has been able to help me identify questions that help people. And on top of that, when we do the actual outreach, obviously job description, drafting a lot of that. I think sometimes many of the hiring managers and team members don't have too much time. They give me enough input. Then I'm able to kind of put that and polish it up and make produce something that is a bit more coherent, that is a bit more attractive, that is a bit more kind of with more finesse that like candidates would be interested in applying through as well.
Just a question on that. Do you use any specific tool for it, or is it just a general language model that you kind of use with those?
Currently, I'm using just a general language model for that. Gemini is the one. I've played around with Perplexity, which I enjoy as well. ChatGPT, I used to use it, but then it started having a few hiccups and other things, and then I paid for, and it wasn't already connected to the internet that time. Was this Gemini was the one? So, but yeah, there are a lot of fun tools that come and go. So that's on the job description side of things. Let's say if I'm interviewing people, I'm currently using a tool called MetaView. It's a really nice recruitment transcription. I mean, there are like a lot of different video transcription apps, and there's a lot of them that will create generated meeting notes and other aspect of it. The reason I use MetaView is because it understands the context of the call, that this is a recruitment call. Basically, the conversation is happening where one person is pitching them and the other person is pitching the company. And I'm able to focus a lot more into having a genuine interaction and one-on-one conversation with individuals rather than like frantically typing notes. I don't think many people have the multitasking skill where they're processing information, typing it, be present, and there's so much happening through. So
at least I can't.
Yeah. So being sincere and genuine, I think sometimes when you have these tools that are kind of supportive of you, and the best bit is that they don't make judgments, they give it as objectively as how the call went through. And then it's up to you to make the judgment based on the information
Yeah.
and time and other things.
So you only have the raw transcript as a text.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Rahul just said that. I think the key thing
Yeah.
there. So utilizing the AI to give actually people time to concentrate on the people
Mhm.
in that matter. So helping out all in the admin side of this. So I think that's really the thing.
Yeah.
I also heard, Tiina, that you mentioned that, and Rahul, you might have an insight into this as well, that you also use that musician at least, some sort of an AI tool to screen for candidates. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
He's the best one to elaborate on that one, of
Yeah.
course.
I would say, in terms of screening candidates, we had, obviously there are a few tools. I've worked for companies where they designed this kind of parameter to be able to kind of identify, okay, how much of the candidate's profile optimally fits within our kind of thing. Greenhouse was not that fully automated. Obviously, that's for inbound is different and outbound is different.
Yeah.
I think for outbound, we used a few different sourcing tools that do use like some previous models of like AI side of things. And again, I've seen the Finnish recruitment market in general, and not a lot of people are competent with proper Boolean searches and other things. So AI tools were able to kind of design through a lot. But AI screening in terms of like the initial stages, I would say, I would say like probably if the ATS was able to kind of identify that, okay, based on the job description that you've highlighted and the criteria that you're setting, these are a few profiles that are a bit more kind of relevant and competent for your thing. So at least they kind of stand out a little bit more. But that's still like, I think, early stage AI,
Yeah.
I would say. So.
Yeah, but we were early then, even
Yeah.
though the kind of boom went after.
Yeah.
And even those stages we were talking about the personal bias. So not only with tools we were covering that back
Yeah.
then, we were also doing a lot of trainings on that side. And
Yeah.
I think that recruitment trainings you guys
Yeah,
did,
exactly.
for example, for everyone who was in part of their hiring was
Yeah.
really, really important. Combined together with
Yeah.
some tools and platforms.
I think that is super interesting that if you are doing screening with AI, might be the case that the AI is screening the material that candidates has written with the AI. So it's like a never-ending loop of AI things
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah,
And especially like a lot of modern data that is generated by AI is going to be fed back into AI. I think that's going to be like a negative loop cycle of mediocrity and the quality of. But that's a maybe larger challenge that I think not something I'm solving through.
It kind of boils down to boring averages.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I don't remember, was it also back then when we were using this AI, what's it called, Highview or something like that? We were piloting it, but we didn't
Yeah, we
actually
tried out a
really
few
use it.
different tools that time. It's because all me, Rob, Magnus, everyone were quite curious to kind of
Yeah.
see what's out there in the industry, especially when it comes to HR tools. I've worked for startups that have designed HR tools and a few other things as well. So I'm always like pretty keen to see what people are into, what are the problems people are trying to solve them to. There are some that do everything mediocrely. There are some that have just given up many years ago. They did something well, but like after that, the innovation has died out. And then there are some tools basically that are actually trying to look at the same problems from a new angle and a new perspective and trying to bring in something fresh in the game. So I'm always curious to see how a lot of these tools evolve through. And yeah.
Because I was thinking we did a lot of like pre kind of interview questioning and all of these before even we had person there, so we could get a full picture.
Yeah.
And avoid again the personal bias on that front. And then I don't remember actually, was it the same tool that could identify your like facial expressions and all that and give you the report? I don't remember the name.
There are a few. They have existed for some time. There's one I would love to use, but I'm extremely hesitant. There are tools that basically, when they join a call, that shows the engagement metrics of an individual, how engaged people are through. They show how your language is, so they can coach you on language side of things, that you're using a lot of filler words in this. And so basically they can coach you in the pitch that you are using through. So there would be a tool that I could just add into the call, and it would say to me, Rahul, you were talking at 275 words per minute. That's really fast. Maybe you need to slow it down to 230 words per minute because the people are able to kind of comprehend it in faster. So there are quite a lot of these tools that exist. I think they border on the edge of creepy. There was the kind of feeling I had a few years ago when we were testing out some of these tools, and was hesitant that time. I think kind of continues to be the same for me.
Can you talk a bit more about that hesitancy? Have you seen pushback from candidates, or is it more about yourself thinking that the tools, what's the learning model, what's the learning material they used, or where's the hesitancy coming from?
So depending on tool to other aspect of things. So like especially the one with like a lot of metrics on candidates' facial expression and other aspect of things. I'm concerned that if somebody is on the spectrum and their facial expressions don't necessarily tell you what their mental computation reaction to the scenario and other aspect of things, and I still don't trust like AI tools to kind of make better judgments or like kind of identify, and they can, if I'm looking for something negative in an individual, it can amplify that. So I think I am personally worried that I'll become a bit more close-minded, or I'll constantly seek for something to shut down an individual rather than like zone. So that is my current fear at the moment with these tools.
Yeah, the accountability, like what are you using, and is this guiding you still on the right, or you should like reverse back and then do some adjustments there, and
And also
I agree with that.
I could imagine that because we know that there are cultural differences, there are individual differences. What's the training set that's being used to train this?
Exactly.
So are we also in the facial expressions, as in written text, are we going to boring averages? Is that the kind of interesting part, which we can see in language models, like you mentioned? I fully agree, because you kind of get averages, and that's not always what you want. So, interesting point.
Yeah, it was actually probably in 2019 when we get to test one video analyzing AI tool, and it was kind of similar what we do, that there was question, then candidate responding with the max amount of time given. So based on the tests, we actually found out that how well they used the time was actually way too important for the AI. So if you said exactly the same things, but went closer to the limit, like the limit of 1 minute, it gave you way higher scores because you were like better on the instructions when you went close to 1 minute and stuff. So those are because you cannot tell what is the reason for a decision the AI is making. But it was of course way back, so the technology is more advanced now. But anyway, interesting test we got to do here.
Yeah. You guys have done both quite a lot of international recruitments.
Yeah.
Have you seen kind of in the candidates, have you seen cultural differences when you're kind of, and perhaps even bringing the topic of AI here, kind of how the candidates perceive that they're going through and different kind of automated tools that evaluate or help you in recruitment? Have you seen different kind of cultural responses, thinking of Finns versus perhaps international audiences?
Yes, obviously individuals tend to have different perspectives in ways of working, and specifically when it comes to perspective to AI in recruitment, I would probably need to fine-tune mine out there. So let's say if I am using an interview recording tool, I think most candidates have been okay if I'm giving the context and if I'm explaining. And if there's a bit of trust, and most people have been perfectly fine, haven't had too much of issues say.
Have you exposed the transcripts to them, or is this something you get?
That only stays with me, okay, typically.
But even there might come the privacy question.
Yeah.
Where is this information going to?
Where is it stored? Who will see it? Or do we have access to it? Is it stored in Europe? Is it? I would say in terms of GDPR literacy, 95% unfortunately don't have. Let's say if I used to use tools before when the GDPR was quite new, we used automated tools that would help identify an individual's email address, a personal email address without reach, because just the response rate in emails were much higher than the ones that were sent in LinkedIn, and we were able to send multiple sequences and messages through. Those kind of tools I had maybe 2 or 3 cases in the entire 3 years where somebody was like, okay, where did you find my email from? Or, and those are like automated scrapers and things that they have on public data and information and things. But yeah, the GDPR literacy did not exist, and I don't think still exists. Not a lot of people kind of identify that, okay, a lot of these tools that exist through, they have certain databases that are public, and then they find the information, and then that's how anything related to sales, marketing, recruitment, a lot of these kind of things exist through. Like, yeah, in terms of perspective to how...
I would say like maybe from their starting that people are people all around the world, and there are differences in individuals. Some are like Rahul and I, that we are keen on interested in new things, and some are like we're coming with the lower side of things, like let's first understand in general what it is. And when you said that you will tell them transparently, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Where the information is stored at? Who will have access to it? Will you have access to it, etc.? So usually people don't say like, no, I won't do that. But of course there might be some of those, and really why I really don't understand, but maybe then that person is not suitable for your company in the end of the day. So that's a one sign of that. But out of those 3 who said like, where did you get my email? I think that wasn't culturally...
I mean, there was just basically individuals didn't want to be reached out, a cold message. Typically recruitment is such a thing that like, I'm not selling you something, I'm typically taking a bunch of flowers to you. Hey, I really like your profile. Would you be interested in
chat more? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I think so majority of people when it comes to so recruitment is the better marketing in that way, that when I send messages to people don't get offended like, hey, don't spam me, or that people are quite happy. Hey, I actually got reached out, and I think people feel that, oh, I have a certain market value and certain presence, and whatever my LinkedIn or wherever this guy found my profile was some other place. Another tool I just remembered I've been using in recruitment, Consensus AI. I hope I had that when I was hiring for physicists in quantum computing. It's a tool that basically helps you identify a lot of different research papers and articles and things. So, most recently I was looking to hire a biochar scientist, and I wanted somebody with high credibility and paper on research on particular aspects and subjects that we were specifically looking into. And before I used to use ResearchGate at IQM, where a lot of different data and information, but the platform was really outdated, really difficult to kind of skim through the profiles, versus Consensus AI. It is extremely strong when it comes to research data and quality of papers. And it has a lot of metrics that kind of identifies which are really good.
So it kind of looks at persons' references and publications.
And how often the citations have been. And what is the quality of their citations as well. If they've been cited a lot of times, but then some scrappy journals or something, or nothing then probably it will give it a lower score.
I know some tools out there that does the same a bit of the same for developers, so it kind of looks at their GitHub stuff at other public forums, open source forums, and if you're kind of looking for a certain specialist, especially for a higher, kind of more senior roles.
But same tools do the like background checkup for how well this candidate will be successful in this current role, so kind of do the same.
Interesting.
Have you faced some kind of objections internally in your organizations when you said that you're going to start using AI tools, or has it been internally always that do whatever you want, basically?
With us, it was quite okay.
I can imagine that. But
I think that's then back to my favorite topic, so company culture. Depending on that. So in my past experience, when I had various of different kind of companies, there the difference between the companies who have this piloting culture within the nature or the DNA of the company. Then you see like, let's go and try it out and see what comes out. But then when there is a company who like, have done this and it works, why would we need anything new? And then talking about, let's say, thousands of people and their engagement survey results to utilize AI to analyze that, like, no, we're not going to talk about this. Like, why? We have done it so well before. Yes. So I think it's back to that question.
Right.
What about you?
I would say there's been a lot of trust, that like nobody's taken too much interest. We don't know. As long as you bring us good candidates, we're fine, and whatever that makes sense out of it. So If you're able to calibrate good profiles with us, and when that is the quality of candidates that we're speaking to, that's what matters to, I think, a lot of talent metrics or other aspect of things. Nobody's taken that much proactive interest into it. Previous roles, if I tell, okay, this is one tool that does this and this, oh wow, that sounds cool. But that's the level of interest from majority of internal stakeholders that I've seen through. Currently as well, I would say it continues to be the same. I probably would say that a lot of hesitance for some new AI tools and things would come from me than rest of the team in my current function. So to give example, I'm really keen to use Google Notebook LLM when it gets available over here in the Nordics in Finland. Why? I think it can automate a lot of HR related stuff. Let's say we have bunch of collective bargaining agreements that need to be either like 180 to 100 pages thick, and I would need to first of all translate them from Finnish to English, or even if my Finnish colleagues would use through, and somebody will come and tell me, Rahul, for a child sick leave, how many days according to my CBA, then I can always go open up the thing versus I can just dump it into the notebook LLM, ask it, and it will instantly come up with a reference and all the index and others. So I think a lot of entire HR function can be automated using AI. But the concern that I would have is how much of information that I want to share to these tools, and especially we use Google Drive and the ecosystem is entirely owned by Google. Even though if they would say that, okay, all the information that you say is not shared with Google servers, or it's your private server and this and that, I'm not good at legalese, so that I would have to have like the legal team kind of look into it, identify concerns for it, so be considering the few new AI policies to kind of design for the company that, okay, if you want to use this tool, can you add certain process engineering diagrams over there? Probably no. Can you add this, because it will make your life easy to ask a question and it will understand things and give you...
Can you put PII, personal identifiable information?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
That's a huge question.
Yeah, I have ended up in discussion like how do we use like AI HR help desk? What can you ask then?
Yeah.
Can you ask with your name?
Yeah.
And will the colleague then get you like, what they asked this question
Yeah,
for?
Exactly.
Ugh, maybe not.
And also, it was interesting when you earlier mentioned that the GDPR literacy might be quite low, and it's a kind of good wake-up call for me from my GDPR bubble. And when I was with Finnair, I was kind of one of the persons in charge of the GDPR project there. We're running privacy here at REC right now, so I'm very well within the bubble. Why can't it? Doesn't everybody know about GDPR? But it's a good measure. But it came up to my mind that you have different levels. Because when you're talking about your own employees, you can do more, because there's a kind of legitimate reason for you to process the names of your employees. Otherwise, it's hard to run a business. Then when you're talking about candidates, you're one step further away. You need to be more considerate. And especially when you're talking about customers, the kind of end customers, D2C customers.
Exactly.
So there are different levels to that.
Yeah. And I think that like collective agreements and questions around that and sick leaves, when it comes to those kind of questions, it becomes very tricky.
But that's a good point, because I built a similar kind of tool for our own internal purposes, mainly for me. We get a lot of information security questionnaires from potential customers, which are related to privacy and information security. We have a lot of documents, a lot of RFQs we've answered, and you know that the answer is somewhere in those documents. Somebody's asking about where do you store your data, how is it encrypted, whatever the normal questions are. I built a bot using it. I think it's a European vendor called Dante AI, doing pretty much the same. You can choose which language model it uses. You dump documents worth of 1 million characters, and then you have a chatbot which you can interact with. Kind of copy-paste the questions from the customer, and it gives you an answer. Same thing, how does the Finnish collective agreement say about child sick leave? Kind of learning the tool, that's going to be super useful for any function within a company in a year's time.
And I think we are saving a few hours every week with the help of that. Direct one about, because they have always those like few questionnaires on the table, having mostly the similar questions to each other, so one can use the bot, and then someone needs to still check the answers, but you don't need to write them from scratch anyway.
And there it doesn't matter that the averages are standard boring average. I'm not writing a novel, I'm answering to an RFP where you can write boring corporate text.
Exactly.
Tiina, you have experienced quite a lot about different kind of companies in Finland. How do you think if you think of, because what I'm hearing, especially from Rahul, also Tiina, from you, is that kind of compared to our average customers, what you guys are doing is more of the leading edge, I would say, of AI use in recruitment situations. But if you think of general companies in Finland, small, large, listed, non-listed, how do you think their HR function should approach the topic of AI?
I think it all comes from awareness. I think everyone in HR, depending if you're a recruiter or HR generalist, whatever you are there, you should have an interest in the AI in general. So you cannot avoid it anymore. And it will come sooner or later. I really like that you said that you are the full of honors. Really like that statement and keep it up. You can't avoid it. So you should have first about like awareness building in your HR function. What can we do about it and how it will help us and how you can be better in your own function to utilize that. And there are so many ways and so many new things that we should all be piloting in different kind of companies. So I think very different nails, very different timing will happen, but eventually we will be all utilizing AI in the basics, let's say like candidate screening.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in a few years' time will do that without an AI help. That's my honest opinion. But yeah, companies are in different kind of mental state of piloting new things. And before it comes like above average that everybody's using it, there might be companies who are like, let's think about AI in a few years' time. And then you're kind of, that's already past you. You're behind. Like, you're very much behind then.
But you say that it's also so one of the key outputs will be kind of to automate a lot of the work that is unmanual today.
Yes. And to save time. Everybody wants to save time. Saving time means it's saving money. And that's how it comes to that. And I think I said it already once, but like, let the people concentrate on people, the AI do the admin things. And if you can build up your HR function to do it and function that way, I think you had a very nice team already functioning therefore. And it's kind of future-proof in a way.
Yeah. I think it's pretty similar to many other new products and new things as well. With the biggest competitor still is the traditional way of doing things. Yeah. You mentioned it earlier already that it's the objection that we've been doing great by doing this. Yeah. And actually you can say like a day per week or something to automate those manual tasks.
Yeah, I would say like if that survey results would have been analyzed in AI, it would have been spending weeks and weeks of time. Yeah. And I would say honestly with my hand here that the end result would have been better. Because then your personal bias would not be there and you wouldn't be like, already 12 hours of doing this analysis, I'm tired, I don't want to look at the next one, let's start it. Because then there would be every single answer analyzed at least. So very human things as well.
A lot of qualitative analysis can get better with the support of TI and for sure. My perspective is that like the whole point of AI is it helps you synthesize information, and if you have good sense of self-awareness of what my day-to-day is, and if I'm able to kind of break down my day-to-day and see where there are free tools that can supercharge me and productive, then basically saves up a lot of time. You can put your mental bandwidth onto more meaningful things, at least in my perspective at the moment. Just this morning I was scrolling Instagram and I noticed that like the Singaporean government is promoting that anyone over the age of 40 can take a new diploma in AI related tools because they want the common population to be kind of aware of the tools that exist through. The whole point, I think, I would say like ChatGPT and others have like 200 million users, which is the penetration is still like really less, and a lot more can happen through, and these are like free tools, services. My spouse, she's a teacher, and she was quite hesitant of like a lot of these fancy tools and things, but then when she had a chance to kind of use Perplexity AI, she was like, I can do my entire lesson plan with this. It takes me less than a few seconds so I can focus on, and she was just so surprised at the amount of time, like if she was sick, sometimes she had to make sure that there was a proper lesson plan for the backup person coming in there. Yeah. And now she can just like generate the plan based on some rough context that she could speak into the mic, and it will design good enough or even better than what she would do it sometimes to kind of give it as an instruction to the person doing the backfill. So I think general people, not just recruitment, but every single function, there's plenty to kind of learn through. Obviously, don't take word to word for it. And I think there's a certain level of critical thinking that would be needed in addition to AI tools. There's going to be information, there's going to be misinformation, there's going to be a lot of, it's a very kind of weird future ahead, which I kind of am pretty curious about.
Sure.
So let's see how it kind of evolves.
And there's also some EU legislation coming about how deep you can go in the regulation. And that's actually one of the guests we're planning to have is somebody to talk about that regulation, that what boundaries is in EU going to put it. It's going to be interesting for us to see whether that's, again, because usually it seems that Asia or US leads in innovation and the EU leads in regulation. I'm a big fan of GDPR. It's done right things for privacy, but then again, when do you go too far and kill innovation? Yeah. So that's it's a hard for us in tech companies to say that are we disadvantaged because we are from Europe, or are we actually at an advantage because we are from Europe? AI is going to be probably the same, and the EU is going to be the one that's going to regulate it most strictly. Yeah.
I think it's super interesting, the penetration level at the moment, because we all work in tech. We, at least at Recruit, have been thinking that everybody is talking about it. Everyone is using it. Yeah. And then when you go a bit out of your personal bubble, you actually notice that no one is using AI. Kind of like so there's so many possibilities.
Absolutely. There's one organization that I was helping out last week. I do a lot of program work with social welfare projects, and they're based in India. They're looking for they do a lot of animal welfare work and things, and a lot in terms of their internal organization, communication, drafting updates for their donors and other things. They have to do a ton of manual work.
Yeah.
And there are so many errors because English is not the native language. So quite often, 3 people need to proofread and check before anything is kind of communicated to. And I was consulting them on the call, and I mentioned AI. What is AI? Yeah. And then I give a demo of it. They were I could see 2 jaws fall on the floor. They're like, wait, that just happened out of you uploading this one image?
Yeah.
And it generated a lot of context that kind of came out of it. So I think a lot of people will slowly come up to speed with things, and it would be interesting to see how it's going to be.
Increase everybody's productivity.
Yeah, but definitely we're in this bubble. Totally talking about it. I have been using my friends as guinea pigs.
Yeah.
They all hear it. But people have been thinking what should be my next role in a company? Talk with ChatGPT, ask there what are the things that you want to do, and then put it there and ask for a job description and see how well that matches, and then you can talk with your supervisor, actually this is kind of the job role I would want to, and exactly what you said, how and what and can I all these questions, and then you are I have been doing this for already 2-3 years, so there will be different ways of coming.
A few more questions before we start to wrap up. I'm actually, because stepping a bit outside of AI might be a part of this, but because you both are recruitment experts, we'd love to hear about challenges you see, either for your company or recruitment in general at the moment. Tiina, would you like to start? What kind of challenges in recruitment, especially staffing?
Yeah, so now we have been super lucky. When I started with IT, I already had 6 open roles, and I was thinking it will be super hard to fill this in. If it's the specific area, it's a specific thing, it's a back-end development, not maybe the fanciest thing in general in the market. But because the market is so different nowadays, we got so qualified candidates, and we kind of ended up in this challenge of how to choose the best ones out of that.
Yes.
So very different than what it has been in the past years. But we managed, and we have nice new orangutans joining us. And if you have already joined, and I'm super lucky about that. So totally different thing there. Yeah. But I think what is changing, and the talent war, it's still going to be ongoing. Yes. The best ones will be still the best ones, who everybody will be wanting in one way or another. And of course, you were saying about that it's easy to relocate people to Finland. And some discussions have been that they're really scared of our neighbors and they don't want to relocate here. So there are, of course, different things going on.
But don't you at 7 just have the Malaga option as well?
We do.
So if you don't want to be next to Russia,
that would have been my next kind of commercial statement, that you can do, Malaga sunshine, not the November Finland as well.
Yeah.
So definitely.
I know that you mentioned orangutans. So that's the best.
Isn't it?
That's one of the best things. I think I have a completely different problem. I would ideally like to have that kind of a problem because the IT industry is well defined. At least there's a generic understanding of what the product team does, what the software team does, what the application development team and a lot of other functions and things do through. And like I have so many niche roles. To give context, last year I was hired for a product manager. Now I received over 300 applications for product managers, and I have to say 100% of them, not 99.9, 100% of those applications were not relevant, unfortunately, because they are more traditional product managers and SaaS companies and
Right.
things. What I was actually looking for was somebody to drive the product management of an industrial engineering giant boiler vessel plant. So basically, the person we ended up hiring was one of probably the 3 to 5 people in entire Finland with that level of experience.
Yeah.
With high temperature, high pressure vessels that has been involved in delivery of massive pressure vessel boilers and things too. So a lot of targeted outreach and search and things that needed to be done through on that aspect of things. So I guess like most important thing was like how niche the role was. So that's the thing. I think with AI coming in, there's going to be a cycle of and a lot of people, is they'll be laid off, they might identify new problems, they might want to be entrepreneurial, they might create new solutions, new businesses. And these would be completely new niches and new insights. And especially, I think climate tech is going to get a lot more traction in general. So a lot of jobs haven't existed so far, or they have existed in some sense kind of parallel industry.
Yeah.
But then reskilling them with completely different context and identifying the right people around over the same with like the quantum computing startup that I work for. Traditionally, people worked for university research centers and with certain ways of working, and then suddenly coming into a startup ecosystem and a very dynamic, agile way of thinking. Basically, it's a very completely drastic, different way of working. And also the specific roles that I was hiring for, they were so niche. The good thing about that sometimes is that they're not used to being headhunted a lot. So when I send a message to people, everybody is curious, they want to have a chat. And so it makes it slightly easier to kind of bring the people and retain the people as well.
But I would imagine that kind of headhunting, we're going into very niche, narrow roles. Is something where, yes, you can use different tools to help you. That's still, like we discussed earlier, it's a very manual job. It can't be replaced by a computer, at least in the near term.
Not in the near term.
But it's not that time consuming if you only have 3 to 5 candidates, like potential candidates.
Potential. So basically the most important thing is like to reach out with them, and then a lot of internal stakeholder management are like making sure the hiring teams understand the context of the people that they're speaking along with, making sure that there's like a structured decision-making process on like having realistic expectations from an individual, rather than this person's going to come in, I'm going to throw the money and it's going to solve all the problems in the company. So I would say it's slightly easier than that.
And then more commonly, you mentioned also the generic role receiving 300 applications, but quite many companies at the moment are challenging. They have a challenge that there's so many applicants. The number of applicants is going up all the time because of the hard times financially. Just thinking of AI's perspective, how much efficiency there is kind of on the table at the moment that could be gained by using some like quite simple AI solutions, even for the early stages of the recruitment.
That is true.
Should we start wrapping things up?
I think we have covered quite a lot of ground today. And
one finishing question before we go to that.
We were kind of after the bold statements, but we've kind of gone close already about it. But I will anyway ask. I can modify a question. The original question was that do we need recruiters in 5 years because of AI? But we can also modify it a bit. That what would be what kind of role is the recruiter's role or a talent acquisition role 5 years from now, if we keep in mind the technology and everything that is developing all the time?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
So I'm still gonna repeat it. I think this is the third time I say it in this podcast.
Yeah.
So human to human, keep the time for the recruiters to have the human to human, and utilize AI in all the other kind of corners of helping you out to choose the best candidates there. I don't think that can be then in a way. If you're working with your people, IT especially, because we're in this bubble, so I think there will be a role. Will it be called recruiter? I don't know. It might be something totally different. I think Rahul nicely came up that we have new roles coming up that we don't even know that are going to exist in 5 years' time. So that might change too.
I think human touch would be the added advantage of any hiring process in future. Maybe like if people are able to kind of be sincere and present to you, I think that would be seen as a bit more positive thing. Currently, for example, in customer service, I'm reaching out to, if I go to a chatbot or a AI bot, I get really frustrated. I want somebody to give me an answer at times. But in terms of, I would definitely love to see like my entire role completely automated by AI in some form. I think there are a few startups that are doing that. I've seen there's one thing called People GPT, which is like a Slack bot that connects with you. And you can ask it questions and you can send it rough messages, and then it kind of fine-tunes the job description and identifies the right profile and already said. I think it's doing it really mediocrely at the moment, but maybe it's still early stages. You never know. It's just one name that came off the top of my mind, because there are at least 10 tools like this I've seen through. Maybe one of these tools just picks up and does it extremely well, and maybe at some point they might automate a lot of recruiter-driven alignment stuff side of things. But I would say most importantly, 5 years down the line, still making sure people have a recruiter's job is a lot of internal facilitation and collaboration, and making sure that everybody sees at the eye level on the roles and everybody has an understanding of that role. And I don't think that might go through, that might be completely automated by AI. But I would like to be surprised. I would be happy if I'm positively surprised that it's doing that. That maybe in the early stages I might take the added benefit of it and try and monetize it a little bit better. Yeah.
Great. But I think that was a perfect example of being a forerunner in something that you are actually like putting your own role and hoping it changes completely. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Tiina. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you. It was a great pleasure to have you here. And for you listening, hopefully you subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or a podcast service of your choice. We also advise you to follow RecRight in LinkedIn. We will share all kinds of news, webinars, events and stuff on our LinkedIn page.